I'm all right. Yourself?
Good.
That's what's up. I'm uh I'm making progress in on the beach delivery thing. I was able to send in the message or impersonate a courier saying that he or she has accepted the order request for a customer, and I have an Azure topic listener running on the customer app. It receives that notification and it updates the page with that status. And that's pretty much all I need because all the other status updates of arrived at pickup location, items in custody, en route to drop off, at drop off location, all that other stuff, like they all follow the same model.
hmm
Right. So good stuff, major milestone. And now I am trying to get Azure Signal R to work so that my test harnesses have two console apps running and send a location, which these two console apps represent like a courier and a customer, and be able
hmm
to bounce the locations back and forth between the two. And so I've been working on that for, I'll probably put in 5 hours trying to learn what that, how that is supported. And now I'm going down a rabbit hole trying to figure out how to read an Azure log, um, just to see if it says that the function was successful, but I actually want to see the trace information within my Azure log before I observe the real time messaging between the two clients. Just because, well, if I'm going to start applying for Azure architect roles, I probably need to be able to read log information, and it's just not that clear how to accomplish that. This stuff is Azure is nothing but a rabbit hole, regardless of where you go. Even monitoring applications requires like a borderline bachelor's degree in how and actually how to get that done. So
Yeah, yeah, they don't make things easy. Although it makes some things really easy. I guess it's better than setting up your own web server and you know configuring your own database on your own server and all of those kinds of things. It makes that stuff real easy. But yeah.
yeah, I also wrote. I'm not sure if I said this in the last Friday, but I built the core infrastructure uh, for running an event store in Azure using Azure Storage Tables. I haven't ported all my code to the infrastructure that I wrote, but it's done. Oh man!
Hmm.
So I have like probably 2 dozen moving parts. I probably have like 18 different repos, and I got to stitch all this stuff together. Hopefully, in like maybe 2 months from now. I learned a lot. I just want to get this. I just want to get a proof of concept running. But here's the what led to me digging into Signal R was the cost of uh, messages. Right. So if it's real time, like chatty session of a customer and a courier trying to find each other, right? When a courier gets within, let's say, 500 feet of a customer at a park or at a beach, then they're going to be monitoring each other on the app. And so a location might be getting updated every 10 feet maybe, or every 20 feet. And so there may be like additional 100 more messages regarding location updates, um, easily. And so I feel like using Azure Service Bus to do that probably would get really expensive in the event that, I don't know, I actually have more than 10 customers using the application every day, which probably won't be likely, probably for like several months. But that led me to employing SignalR to manage that cost in regards to messages going back and forth solely for location. And I might use it for uh, actual messaging between the courier and the customer when they need to, instead of making a phone call, they just drop in a message as part of correspondence. So yeah, I guess I have two use cases for that.
Sure. Yeah, you could probably even add use WebSockets and add direct call between the two right into it. But yeah, it's what do you think of SignalR then?
No, I'm not sure if that's a good idea. But as a as an e-commerce platform, I want to capture all correspondence, right? For legal reasons, and maybe for machine learning reasons. I know Yagni, you ain't gonna need it, but like I don't want any drop of information to leave my hands because I want to profit over everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if it's not profit over everything, it's secure everything. Uh, and so if there's any type of suspicious behavior, and maybe that could be one one data point is correspondence between the two parties. I need to be able to capture that. So Signal R is only going to. I don't think Signal R captures anything. It's a WebSocket and messages fly everywhere back and forth. So maybe Service Bus is still ideal for managing that part, um, because when you send a message, I think it's okay for 5-10 seconds to go by for a serverless app to for serverless to pick it up. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud right now, or maybe I need to do the best of both worlds. I'll probably do that. Okay. I'll figure it out. But yeah, I'm making a hell of progress. So
Good.
what's up with you?
Been working on this, uh, just prep for this game jam all week. So just want to go into it with as much boilerplate stuff and tooling as that I can, without using like a pre-made engine or whatever. Because I actually like it's kind of fun to spend time building out the engine or tools on your own. It's one of the few things that part of coding that I really find fun and interesting still. So even after rewriting the same thing a bunch of different times, I didn't build any tools that I was going to build this week because I've been mostly just working on library capabilities. But I think based on what I started with last week, I added in positional sound, like a basic particle system. There's some work on some shader stuff. Um, I was working on and refined a little bit, like a system for making better like graphical user interface stuff. Um, and wonder.
You never partner with anybody to build an indie game. You always just do it by yourself.
No, yeah, I've only ever really done it myself. The game jam weekend things, it's I don't know, it's like a personal thing. I wouldn't mind working with someone on a actual game, but um, that's most people. Not most people, but a lot of developers would love to work on games. But there's not a lot of unless you get kind of really lucky or have a really great marketing team and are really talented. It's a tough industry to make money in just to support yourself because you figure you're building a single product over the course of years, and that thing has, you know, a one time. Unless you're building something that you can kind of continue to build on and add content to,
Like
you know, you
Call of Duty, they keep on adding new features like every 2 months.
yeah, basically, unless you build something that is like a treadmill game where you go on and you just run at it and you continue to do that over and over again, and they add in new things to make it interesting. But if you're building a game that's smaller, you know, a one-off thing, unless you're really really lucky and talented at the same time, then you're probably not going to make a lot of money off of it, not enough to live on, anyways. So I guess if you want to be a starving artist, you can, but when you've got a family, it's I don't hear many success stories about game devs who had full-time jobs and a family to support and then moonlighted a game in the meantime, and then got it out there and it was a big success. So and to be honest, the game building the game itself isn't as much fun to me as actually building out the tooling um, for it and understanding the tooling, because it's just a different kind of programming. It's not just all CRUD operations. There's actual some algorithmic complexity to it. There's stuff that makes you actually think. So it's not just, hey, grab some data, drop it in a database, and then regurgitate it on the screen.
I,
You know,
I was telling her yesterday, I was talking to him, and I'm like, yo, I want to unlock this Signal R achievement like before I go to sleep tonight. He's like, there's a video game for that? I'm like, no. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't know, maybe for the past 2 or 3 years, I kind of like use the metaphor of video game achievements into like software development as I'm learning. And so like Azure Service Bus, Azure Storage Tables, like once I'm able to get a test to pass and there's some data that didn't exist before that sits over on that platform or whatever or storage, I just unlock the achievement, right? And it's like, good, right? It's part of me leveling up. Do you ever look at things like that? Like, do you kind of use the unlock achievement metaphor, or like what? How do you psych your mind into pushing?
well, I've used an achievement unlocked before in terms of things. I don't know if I've ever used it as a motivating factor.
Yeah,
Um, unless not knowingly used it. Um,
it's kind of like gamification. Like, I don't know if you ever mess around with Duolingo for
uh,
learning a language.
no, but I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I it's one thing we had once is that a while ago, maybe 2 years ago, and I don't know, maybe we talked about this. Um, the group that the person I work for, the team I work with, whatever. One of the people built a dashboard in TFS, and it showed completed like story points on a per developer basis, which was a bad idea, and we ended up removing it.
Mm.
But for me, it was a bad idea because like I cared a lot about making sure my number was the top number. So like every time I'd go and look at the dashboard, I'd be like, I gotta finish some more. I gotta finish some more PBIs so I can get this number not only above the next person, but well above everyone else. So I would just go and just gung ho and pump out stories as fast as I could, only because I wanted to make sure that number was the highest.
I was kind
So
of guilty of the same thing. I would act like I'm Jordan, and I used to tell like my peers like, "Yo, I'm out of whatever would be like a really high number of points." I'm like, "Yo, I'm about to put up 50 this week. Watch."
yeah, I think I did like 94 once in a week or something like that. It was nuts.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was 48. I don't remember. Yeah, I think I
The,
did a 50 point
the question is, I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons why it doesn't really count in reality, but I mean, were those points qualified with acceptance criteria, or
I don't
no? It
care.
wasn't that formal. Like I said,
Yeah, it might have been. I don't know. A lot of points are so vague, anyways. Because like for pointing, I'll use my anxiety meter is basically what I use.
hmm
So I just think of how much anxiety the thing is going to cause me, and that's how I rate it. So if I'm like, I know exactly what to do, there's no question about this at all. There's no cross team dependencies. It's just get in there. It's usually a pretty low one. As soon as you start adding in the like cross team discussions or additional design work, or we've got to wait on this, and it just the anxiety meter starts to go up, and then it'll get fives and eights, and I don't know. We tend to pretty much point everything at a five, and then if it's we almost t-shirt size. It's five is normal, or medium, and then three is like a small, and then eight's like a large, and then occasionally we'll go outside the bounds to like a really tiny or really large. But like we could, I've argued before that we'd probably be better off not pointing anything and just counting getting PBIs to about the right size, and then just counting the number of stories we complete, or in a sprint, and then just going that route. Because
do
if you, yeah,
I don't mean to cut you off. I'm listening.
no, it's all right. I'm good.
Do you do you believe in Scrum? Do you believe in uh, pointing stories? Like, do you think that that is necessary?
I'm gonna go let my dog in. He's scratching at the
Yeah.
door. One second. Sorry.
Do, do,
Um,
do you think that activity generates more value than overhead?
no, I don't think so.
No.
No, I think that things could go a lot more fluid. I like the. I like the idea of. I think the value is really more in just making someone prioritize something, which we don't get a lot of in practice. But um, in reality, I mean, you should have someone who's actually like cares about the product and knows what the important things are, and is prioritizing your list so you know what to work on next. Like that, I think is important. As far as actually recording points or estimates or whatever, I don't see the value in that. I think I went to a talk once, and it was kind of one of these no estimates ones. And I think what I took away from that is that no estimates isn't really about not estimating. It's more about having actionable and sane estimation. So I think like he's saying is that what you do is you try to get every story to be the exact same size. Then you can count the number of stories that you can complete. And then if you have a feature request, you can just basically break down into those stories, and then based on the your velocity. I mean, it's the same kind of thing, but based on your velocity, you should be able to give a reasonable estimate as to when you would deliver that thing. So you are estimating, but it's based on actual metrics, not just I think this will take like 3 weeks. Which is basically not worth anything. And then the story pointing is it's just the same thing in another by another name.
Yeah,
Oh, I think
so
this is big.
here's the thing, and I mean, I'm not as well versed as most people when it comes to Scrum. I think, but I think poker planning, I think it's flawed severely. Um, and this is my rationale: is yeah, it's a step, perhaps. Well, taking one step is better than not doing anything sometimes. Which I ask the question is it generating more value than overhead, right? But when you're when when you're poker planning, at least based on some of the businesses that I've worked with, you're not really going in detail about what what implementation strategies exist and what are the advantages and disadvantages to those particular options to manage the risk of a failed project, or in this case, the project being scoped to these particular features, right? Um, and so when you're able to identify like the critical path and what can be done in parallel versus what can be done in series, like I think that's when you're really putting forth thought into what does this really mean for this project to be successful, and what are the different perspectives that we can take or even approaches that we can take, and what are the risks. And I feel like that can only be documented. That's not sitting at a table and pulling out a card or throwing out some points all within like five or within a couple minutes of it being said. And I know that maybe the response would be, well, yeah, but you're supposed to be prepared. You're supposed to review the various candidates before you have that meeting to point it. Okay, I've never done it. I haven't.
Yeah, me
Right.
neither.
So in conclusion, I think it's I think it's better if for and maybe not for everything, but for things that are deemed a priority to work on, that people should probably, I'm not sure if it's every single developer, I'm not sure if it's just the architect or the lead, but I think they should create a project design document that identifies the critical path, what can be done in series, what can be done in parallel, what are the advantages and disadvantages of each strategy, three or four of them, for getting this done. And it's really thought provoking. And you're providing the business with options that you want them to select from, and them not dictating to you what you're going to do. Right.
Yeah,
So,
that depends on how at what level you get your request though. Because you're
okay.
talking about like a project. And I can see that working if you're getting something at an epic level or a maybe at a feature level. But sometimes by the time that we even get to that, it's already broken down to individual things based off of what some other people think how what
Yeah,
needs to be
that's the
done.
part I'm
So
not. That's the part I'm not cool with. Is other
yeah,
people shouldn't be telling me. Uh, they. It's okay for other people to prioritize what work needs to be done. It's not okay for them to tell me what task, how I'm going to get that work done.
yeah,
Right, and that's the biggest. I don't know if fallacy comes to mind, but that's the biggest thing that I just disagree with. Is you're telling me exactly how I'm going to deliver this, and you don't have any engineering degree whatsoever. All right, I know this is
yeah.
going off on a tangent.
Two other things that I take issue with is one is that there's never we they care so much about the cost of figuring out how much like time a development task is going to take or to get a feature or whatever. They never really factor in the cost of what it's taking to do those estimates and to spend time just juggling all of the crap that you have to juggle with. So that's one thing that bothers me about it too, is that when you're on a team and you're estimating, um, if you're estimating difficulty or whatever based on points or whatever you're doing, sometimes it's very dependent on who's the implementer, right? So like I could look at something and say, hey, I know exactly how I do that in my head. I could have that done in a day, guaranteed, no problem. I can visualize the result. To me, that's a 3 pointer, really. And the next guy, if he's maybe newer or just doesn't have as much experience or whatever, um, might look at it and think that's going to take me a month to do, and that's a really hard problem. So I mean, like it doesn't take into account that those values aren't really static across the scope of a everybody on your team, which is why you kind of have to take the average of everyone, and that's really hard to do effectively, I think, especially with the limited number of points values you can have. And then third is I hate it when you get people who go to like a 3 day Scrum training course, they become a Scrum Master, and then they come in and tell you you have to adjust your practice to match the Scrum. Like we were doing at one point in the project I'm on, we were like, hey, let's try 1 week sprints instead of 2 weeks, and instead of doing this really fixed board, like this is the unit of work we're doing this sprint, let's do it more Kanban style and just use the meeting to do prioritization, and to discuss more like what we did during the last 2 weeks, and do kind of like a retro, and maybe we'd even do retro every couple weeks, whatever. We were trying to be more fluid about the way that we dish out work, because what we do is we get to this point where at the end of a week or a week and a half, we'd have no work left, you know and so we'd end up pulling stuff in anyways, or we'd have too much. And then the SQEs on our team, which we could get into whether there should be a different people who are responsible for testing or not, but that's just the reality that I'm in. Like they would have a bunch of work to do at the end.
That's always been the struggle for me is like them saying your story's not done until it's been not only built but QA'd, right? And now I'm at the point where, okay, well, the DevOps folks says that a story's not done until it's deployed and being monitored. Right? So like
Yeah. So I don't know. I'd we switched to that, but then we had a different person come in our team, and they're like, "No, I this is not the way Scrum is done. You have to do it like this." Like explaining the principles that we intentionally decided to you know alleviate, move away from for reasons, uh, which is what kind of the pure agile mindset is that you adjust based on your own understanding and your belief about what makes things work better or not. So, but I liked the show. I liked getting rid of the sprint boundaries and just having a continuous backlog, um, where you just keep working off of the same thing, and you continually have and then just keep going. I mean, because then what happens is that people work at different paces. Your SQE people will just have a constant stream of work going on over time, instead of it being more like a tiny little waterfall where you've got everything you do up front and then all the testing at the end. It's just kind of ongoing, right? You do your dev, you move on to the next thing, they pick up the testing. While they're testing, you're deving, and then it just flows. And I'd rather just have everything be a flow and go that route than boxing things. But people who like numbers and metrics and tools don't really like that.
they're trying to stay relevant. And
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest issue with why projects are so expensive and why projects take certain directions because everybody that is being compensated needs to justify their worth.
yeah,
So they make decisions to appear relevant. That's my conclusion. So
yeah. You have to go through 8 different people just to answer a question. You just go to the guy. or the girl. Be like, hey, what's the answer? So, anyways, so I could rant about that all day, but I've gotten really tired of just about all of it, like the whole corporate development mindset and everything. Just yeah,
So when are you going to go independent as an independent software vendor? When are you going to have a couple clients or 3 clients that you just bill on the regular? Nope.
probably never. If I won the lottery, maybe. Uh, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is that there's this trade off in personal life between what you want to do and then other personal decisions that you made that are now you kind of your responsibility. So
You're
having
talking
a
about healthcare and benefits and stuff.
healthcare benefits, yeah, family, just in general. I'm not worried about like 401k and stuff like that. I'm kind of thinking I'll either just work till I die or I'm gonna get cancer probably one day anyways and just or a heart attack and hit by a bus. I don't really care. The whole retirement mindset is just if you're not gonna do it early, I don't see what the point is. But
Yeah, that's what the 4-hour work week was saying.
yeah, so but the healthcare cost thing. I mean that's a real deal. But
In the United
be,
States, it is.
yeah, but in but then mortgage and just other just regular stuff, cost of living type things, um, kids activities. Kids are expensive, so we're just feeding them even. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would take a lot of. I'd have to have kind of almost a sure thing, which is to convince my wife that it would be okay. And getting a sure thing is pretty much impossible. So best I can do right now is to look at different jobs or something like that. Maybe try to find something that'll reignite the passion for a while or the motivation. I've been stuck on the same like not problem at work, but just like set of work for the last 3 days, and I've just been having the hardest time getting any motivation to work on it. Like,
Have you ever considered doing a part-time contract job outside of work
yeah, I've thought about it.
and then try to build that relationship?
Yeah, yeah, but then it's like I said, it's a work 8 hour thing, then work 4 hours for someone else, and then eventually your wife's pissed at you, and your kids are like asking where you are. And yeah, I get enough of that with even just my side project. So it's kind of a it's kind of a shitty place to be in when you have to
Yeah,
think about other people.
I wonder how much a nanny costs. I'm just thinking like, if you're not, what does Elon Musk do?
Yeah, he's probably got a nanny.
Or he probably has a hot Brazilian nanny, a hot Russian nanny. Like,
I don't know. Does he have kids?
I think he has 5 of them. The question is he really a father to them versus a sperm donor? And we all have different objectives in life. He wants to improve humanity. Other people, they just want to improve, 2 or 3 individuals called their sons or daughters. So
Yeah,
I don't. Yeah, honestly, I don't think you could knock him, especially when he's making that type of impact.
yeah. I don't have anything against Elon Musk. Let him do his thing. So I'm yeah.
This lockdown is taking its toll on me. I am literally like hopping out the shower and observing atrophy kick in in regards to like my chest. Like my chest is shrinking, man.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know what to
gotta
do.
build yourself a gym. Rent a storage unit and buy a couple dumbbells or something, or a bench and some weights. Just go and lift.
I gotta do something.
I wonder what. Well, just find the cheapest space you can find to rent and do that.
And I mean, it has to be indoors. Like I'm still in Canada, man. It's freezing out here. Like when it is warm, I'll go to the park and I knock off like a mile, maybe a mile and a quarter of running. They taped up the yard at the park, so I can't do pull ups anymore. Oh, this stuff is taking its toll on me,
Get a
man.
pull-up bar. Do it in your
I'm
doorway.
6'7". There's
Oh,
a pull up bar right here, and I keep bumping my head on it.
oh.
It's right in the
Mm,
doorway, and I keep bumping my head against it.
dang. Can you? Do you have a yard? Can you build like a?
It's too cold outside right now.
Oh, yeah. I suppose when you're used to living in Miami.
Yeah, Miami's live, man. I just bought a freaking battery for my motorcycle. It cost me like $300, man, and I'm probably gonna have to buy a new one by the time I get back. Like, do you know anything about cars? Like,
Yeah.
if you like if you let a battery sit for like 3 or 4 months, like, what does that do to the battery? Like, how good is that battery once you jump it? Like, is a third of its lifetime just destroyed because you let it sit?
No idea. That's more of a chemistry question, I think. But I think anecdotally, I mean, I don't think it harms the battery to sit there for a little while, but it's being pulled on by the vehicle, though. Usually,
Yeah, I think there's a certain uh I think there's like a optimal amount of like discharge that is supposed to a certain level is supposed to stay above. But then once you start pulling like below, like I don't know, let's say 2/3 or whatever, then you start rapidly, uh, I would say, decelerating the lifetime of the battery. I know there's a better word for that, but
yeah. You just need to take your battery out before you leave.
well, my battery's 3,000 miles away now. Well, 2,000 miles away. Like it ain't happening. They're not gonna let me back up here if I cross into the United States.
Oh, true, true. Yeah, I forgot about that. You're kind of stuck. How long can you be in Canada for before you have to go back?
I think it's 6 months. I think I'm approaching 2 months.
Or you could just go to the boundary waters in Minnesota and just illegally cross. You could be an illegal immigrant to Canada.
I'll be a mule.
There was there was a kid in that of I think it was either this last summer or the year before, but up in so there's this area in Minnesota called the Boundary Waters where it's between Canada and Minnesota. There's a bunch of like really pristine lakes and stuff like that. And on the Canadian side, it's called Quetico. But there was some Boy Scouts or something up there camping and going through. And one day, one of the kids decided he was going to go visit his friend in Canada. So he left to go and cross into the Canadian side and go through the wilderness and get to his friend in Canada. I don't know what this kid was thinking. They had to go and just do a search party and everything, and they ended up finding him. Not too far away, but like there's some people just Darwin Awards, man. They should have just let him.
Yeah, wilderness. I don't know, man. I don't know if anybody's been killed by a wolverine or anything, or even wolves.
I'd be more worried about tripping on a rock and not having anyone around to save me up
No,
there.
for
Bears,
Canada,
maybe. But
for Canada, I'll be terrified. Like what? Like a bear is one thing, but when numbers increase, once you have like a pack of wolves that notice you and you're on foot, that's pretty much it. Like what are you going to do when you have six
Climb a tree.
wolves on your tail? Like, it's one thing to get lucky and like shank one wolf as it gets on top of you, and you just keep shanking it till it drops. But yeah, you're gonna get ate alive when you have a pack of wolves on you, and we're talking about
Yeah,
like you're in the wilderness in Canada.
yeah. So, so yeah, I don't know what this kid was thinking, but I thought about that afterwards. Yeah, right. He's just a drug mule. He wants going to go and drop off his, you know, uh, crap out a balloon and give it to his friend up there. But it just made me just realize how like unsecure the Canadian border is. It's like we crossed over a couple times to go to some landmarks on the Canadian side, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty fluid up there. Nobody's checking your passport to see if you want to go. There was this, I think it was called Warrior Hill or something like that, which is on the Canadian side. It's just this kind of a big rock, and you get to the top, and you can kind of oversee a lot of the boundary waters, and that was cool as hell. But and there's this other thing where we went down a river, and on the Canadian side, we stopped at one of the spots, and here in the middle of all of this, there's this rusted out old Buick, like really old Buick car, just in the middle of the woods, next to the river at this spot, this rusty Buick.
No
Just
road leading to it. Yeah.
nope, it was just there. I think the thought was is that maybe during the like logging period that somebody drove it on the ice through the different rivers and stuff, or the lakes and rivers, and got it there, and then just got stuck and just left it. So but yeah, you're going through this what is otherwise kind of pristine wilderness area, and you find this rusty old Buick. It's kind of like a remnant. It's like just I don't know. It's history, like archaeology type stuff. There's a couple other things like that, like logging things from like logging fixtures and stuff that you find, docks that they built, and like one of the campgrounds we stayed at, their giant metal rope and stuff like that.
I got into a debate yesterday about this. Do you think campgrounds are still open?
I don't know. Maybe I don't.
Because I'm like,
Minnesota's
that's like
pretty
asking if
cold though.
trailer parks are open. I mean, like, because when I was a child, like, people had RVs at the campground. I'm pretty sure, like, maybe some people lived there or something. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't
How
know
can
if
you stop
Minnesota
somebody
closed
from
them.
like chilling in the wilderness? Isn't that like social distancing alone?
Yeah, I don't know. They might. Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Minnesota's closed them. I don't know because there's federal ones, there's state ones, and there's private ones.
It should be open. I mean, that's the whole point is you're getting away.
Yeah, 43 out of 50 states have closed or delayed opening of their state park systems. Minnesota's one of them. The Army Corps of Engineer campgrounds are closed, which are one we've stayed at some of those. They're really nice. Um, I
This,
don't know if it is, I don't know if they're going to close any of the private ones though.
this is starting to annoy me. I know that we probably still have first world problems compared to like, I don't know, people in like Zimbabwe or name some really, really, really poor country somewhere. Like, so I'm sure we still have luxurious problems. Like, woe is me. I can't work out. My massive chest is starting to deplete now. Like, so I don't know. I try to remember to be gracious, but this thing is starting to get on my nerves now. I know it's probably taboo to say that, but
Yeah,
I'm a free spirited person, man, and I've been restricted for like 2 months now. I'm done venting.
yeah. My on that note, my brother-in-law owns this store, and he basically kind of like opened up because he's like he needs to have some business coming through for drop-ins. There's never a crowd in there. It's not any different than going for takeout or whatever. You know, it's really not no different. And he got the cops called on him for opening his store up. So and having someone come in there. Uh,
So they closed him back down.
Basically, I think they told him he's got to shut it down. So, but it's like it's not like they're telling his creditors or his whatever that they got to stop charging him. So the government's basically said, hey, you can't reasonably do commerce, you know, in whatever way you think you can do it. Um, but someone who all the people that can do it that you have to pay to are just fine and open. And other things like they closed down, and I think they finally waived this in Minnesota, but like little floral shops, they couldn't conduct business for a while. But if you look at like something like Menards or something like that that has a who've been deemed essential, they have their floral shops and stuff in them as part of their business, but they can operate all day. So the only people that are getting screwed in all this really are the small business,
Yeah.
owners. And man, I feel for them. It's like you the government is doing a huge big take control kind of a deal, and they shouldn't be doing that. They should be just asking people to use their judgment and to give guidelines to help them stay open, but do it safely, kind of a thing.
I mean, this might sound crazy, but let businesses open up and people can come there if they walk in with a hazmat suit.
Well,
Like,
no, man, no. The thing is, some stuff is still open, and like yesterday, so one of the guys that owns a brewery here in town, he's like, I went to Menards to pick up some stuff for the business because I need to try to just do something while we're shut down. Basically, he can still do growlers and things like that, but he's like, hey, I'm at Menards, and I'm like the youngest person there, and he's in his 40s, and the people that are most at risk are out and about, just doing, having a good old time working. And he's like, I have to shut down my business, and retirees basically get to go and do house remodeling. Like that's that's what it feels like. um, when those people are the ones that should be kind of locked away if we're worried about them getting killed. And I'm not saying that younger people can't get killed. It's just this is like really skewed towards the elderly.
we need to colonize some like indigenous land so we can have our freedom again to walk around and work out.
Yeah,
What's left over to colonize?
I don't know.
The Amazon.
The ocean.
Build it Atlantis.
But there's like, isn't there like a self-proclaimed country off the coast of England? It's called Sealand, I think.
Is it recognized as a country?
I don't know if it's recognized, the Principality of Sealand, and you can become a lord or lady of it by sending mail or something to it. It's basically like this big, it's this big like platform in the middle of the sea, 7 miles off the eastern shores of Britain, and it was founded as a sovereign principality. And you can become a noble by you can pay like $30 or £30 and become a noble.
Was it like Waterworld or something?
No, it's just this. It's like this platform. I don't know if it's
How
considered.
big is the platform? Like the size of maybe 3 ships?
Yeah, that basically.
Uh, I've been
Uh,
to a platform in the water that was a strip club when I was living overseas in the Philippines.
no, it's
We
not officially recognized as a sovereign nation, despite its claim.
yeah, we should invade it. Uh,
Yeah, but
Mongolian style.
yeah, we could just build a platform out in the open ocean and call it home.
I don't know. Do you work out?
Not
No.
not much.
If you have to, no, you don't.
I've been starting to like jog though, and I've done it consistently now for 3 weeks. So I'll say that I do that.
How much distance do you clear?
Just I've only been doing a mile at a time. So I'm not really I'm not really sold on the benefits of long distance running. Um, but I think what I want to do is build up a base and then just start to do how fast can I run a mile, instead of trying to do how long can I continually run for. So once this starts to get, at some point in time, it's just going to teeter off and it's just going to be easy. And then I think what I want to do then is start the high intensity training stuff where you do sprints and then, uh, you know, wait for 30 seconds and then do sprints again. And then,
Yeah, I can't do that.
if that works out, then eventually I'll be able to just sprint a mile, get to a 6 minute mile, and I'll be like this running god.
Have,
No,
have you ever attempted what do you call it's popular now. Uh, I don't know what you call it. It's like a form of cross training, but I forgot the formal name to it.
CrossFit?
Yeah, have you done that?
No.
I tried to, man. I tapped out after 5 minutes, and I thought I was reasonably fit. Like, nah. The crazy part is like 2/3 of the class is like women, and like they were running circles around me. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be a competitive thing. You got to be in it from a competitive standpoint, and
Yeah, they were all built like Spartans, though.
yeah,
I guess I'm tapping out, man. Mm, I feel like working today.
yeah,
Huh.
sounds good.
It's been real. Thanks for the support. When you gonna have your video game thing done? Or
It's a weekend thing, so I'll have something, whether it's finished or not, by the end of the weekend.
how
So
many how many people are participating? Is this the Ludom La Dare or whatever
yeah,
thing?
Ludum Dare. Yeah, usually it's around. I think the numbers have been around 2,500 people, but I have a feeling it's going to be a lot more this time because everyone's shut in. So
Let's see what Twitch TV says about it. Have you been going to Twitch TV?
uh, there's like a yeah there's a on the actual Ludum Dare website they have like a little uh, uh, widget on there called Jammer TV or whatever, and it has all the people on here that have tagged themselves with Ludum Dare. So like right now, this guy, let's see, no pogo underscore TV is doing it. Let me see. Is he the only one?
Can I filter on English? Like, how do I? Because half the stuff is in foreign languages. Freaking Russians. All right.
Yeah, there's like only one. There's like only one person on right now that's doing. But if you were to drop in at like 8 o'clock tonight, or well, it'd be 9 o'clock your time, um, there's going to be probably a couple dozen people.
Well, I bet you a lot of people are trying to learn the code now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what else to do?
I shouldn't be laughing at that, but
Yeah, I think it's
they got some time off, and they're like, "All right, JavaScript, Python." It amazes me how Python has taken over the world, and I don't know what happened, who triggered it.
the data people did. Actually, the college people did too. Python's used as like an intro language instead of Java.
Yeah,
A lot of
it has
places.
taken over the world.
Yeah. Well, it's the second best language to do anything in. So
Well, I mean, there's always
except for game dev.
there's always
Fuck that
constraints,
game dev.
right? Because I mean, for writing business applications, like because I thought Python wasn't good for performance or wasn't popular for performance.
No, it can be really performant if you do it right. Um, but it depends on what you're trying to do. Um,
Okay, people write video games in Python.
Not usually. The server side, they'll do scripting with it though. So there's a one of the big ones was the people who did gosh, what is it? Anyways, it's this like space MMO. I think they're called CCP. They wrote all of their stuff in stackless Python. Um, no, it's gosh, it's on the tip of my tongue what the game is.
There's a lot of game developers on here
Eve, that's what it is. Eve.
creating Zelda-like game, WebGL. What does GL stand for? Graphics library or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Ludum. Oh, I see a Ludum there.
Yeah, I think there's only
And
one
Rust.
person
He's
doing
doing
it
it
right now.
Rust.
Oh, dude, there's all sorts of different stuff going on with different developers and things. Like people do it in Rust. People have written like games for some old systems. Like people have written for Commodores um, and like NES systems and stuff like that. A lot of people use this thing called Pico 8, which is like kind of like a self-contained game engine thing, computer deal. A lot of people use Unity. Some people use Monogame, which is what I use. There's web dev stuff. There's people who use this thing called Twine, which is a way to do like narrative stories games, where
Hmm.
you just like drag cards and you can keep track of data and stuff like that. And it's JavaScript driven. So um, yeah, there's a ton of different development. Like you can just start with whatever you've got and kind of build into a game. So, but
Last thing, when does Microsoft build in this build? I'm
last year
curious.
I think they canceled it, didn't they?
No, it has to be virtual, right?
Virtual.
So it says May 19th, 21st, so a month from now. Do you know if they're going to make any major announcements in regards to products or anything?
I don't know. I'm assuming that we'll see, .NET 5 or more about that. Probably see, I don't know, maybe some stuff with Xbox Series X coming out. I don't know.
No, they're not going to do that for MS Build.
Yeah.
Did they
I
give
don't
up
know.
on
They just did.
HoloLens yet?
I don't know. They just did GitHub. They made it free for everyone. They might. One of the rumors that I heard is that they might eventually your sunset Visual Studio or Azure DevOps, and everything will just move to GitHub as their primary repo provider, tool provider.
Oh, yeah, they do have like two different CI/CD solutions.
Well, yeah, they added GitHub Actions now. Is that what it is? So, and they made it free for Teams. And somebody was saying that they heard that Azure DevOps, at least as far as some of it, is on maintenance mode. And so what?
I guarantee you they're going to. I guarantee you that if anything, they're just going to swap out. Why do I have a private chat here? Is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guarantee you that they're not going to kill Azure DevOps. They're probably going to use, if anything, GitHub's solution for CI/CD and replace the current Azure DevOps with that. They're not going to get rid of the Azure brand. They're not.
No, not Azure. They won't get rid of Azure, but they might get rid of Azure DevOps.
No, they're going to keep. What I'm saying is they're going to keep Azure DevOps as a brand, and they're going to swap out the implement what's underneath it. They're not going to say Azure DevOps has now become GitHub Actions or whatever
Yeah.
the GitHub solution. They're not going to do that. Azure is their like, it's like freaking, I don't know, name someone, the chosen one. Like I can't think of any really good example, but that's their baby.
Yeah.
Anything that can be embraced by consumers or enterprise is going to have Azure attached to its name.
Maybe they'll just rebrand GitHub to Azure Hub.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't put it past it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, honestly, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
I don't know. I think it would. Everyone would get pissed off and leave.
You think?
Go to GitLab. I don't know.
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's
I like the name Azure Hub, but then it would completely. Well, they could probably call it Azure Git or Git Azure. I don't know. It's a play on words, but they definitely have to have Git and Azure in the same name if people are going to use it. Well, they have to have Git in the name if people are going to use it. They have to have Azure in the name if they really want to protect their brand. But what am I? I'm just a graduate from Cleveland State University in computer science, not marketing. So
yeah. I don't really like when they take crap and just apply it to other products. Like, oh, this is Skype for Business, and this
well,
is Visual Studio for Macintosh.
that used to be links. What was so Skype for Business wasn't Skype at all, right? It was another video conferencing, I thought, solution called Links
Link, yeah,
or Link, and then they
yeah.
just
I
renamed
think
it,
we still at the place we still use the Link client instead of the Skype for Business one.
which is annoying because it's not really integrated with Skype. So, like yesterday, I was talking to a recruiter, and I want to show the recruiter some of the mobile apps that I've built, and I didn't have a shared desktop option on my screen. And I'm
Hmm.
on the best because he was using Skype for business, and I was only on Skype. Any other time I could share my Skype screen or my desktop on Skype. So yeah,
Hmm.
that stuff isn't it's not fully integrated with other products.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, I'll have my game ready by the end of the weekend, and I'll demo it next week. I think I did it last time, a word one. So,
Good stuff. Well, it's been real.
yep. Have a good
Thanks.
week.
Take care. Bye.
Yep. Bye.